There have been a number of issues in Ghana for many to talk about. The economy, how it's been doing, at least since the beginning of the year, even prior to the 2024 general election. And the issue of illegal mining that has also come up very strongly. But in the midst of all of these, the country has been hit hard by the death of 8 prominent members of state. And the hearts of many are bleeding. Today, we're here to have a conversation with a statesman and a renowned economist, Kwame Pianim, to share his thoughts, particularly on the current state Ghanaians have found themselves in, mourning the passing of the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, also the Minister for Environment, Dr. Murtala Mohammed, and 6 other personalities that the country has lost in a military helicopter crash. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with us, and perhaps I should start by saying our condolences.
Thank you very much for reaching out to me. It's with a heavy heart that we hear of this national tragedy. I think our condolences first go to all of us as a nation, to our president and head of government, and to him as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the security agencies, and of course to the CDS and its commanders, especially the Air Force commander, for their losses. I know Dr. Omane Boamah. I saw him first as a young, very eager, passionate student trying to enter politics. Him and Honorable Ablakwa started out with us as NPP aspirants, very strong for democracy and human rights. And Honorable Munuri used to come here. He was probably more passionate about the second coming of President Mahama than most of the
used to come here as in this house?
This house. He's a personal friend. He used to come here. So it's a great loss, nationally, personally. And our condolences also go to our friends and colleagues of the NDC. It is not easy to lose a political associate. So our sympathies go to them. And for me, the litmus test for the second coming of President Mahama is how he tackles and resolves the Galamsey issue. And the fact that these people of government and military personnel lost their lives in trying to go and listen and to resolve this problem is significant. It should turn all our attention to this problem. It poses an existential threat to the people of Ghana. The world is losing water. Water is going to become very critical. And if we pollute our waters, there will be no water for us to drink. Already, women get pregnant, spend 9 months, and are giving birth to deformed babies. Women are having their reproductive systems and genes messed up by the pollution in the waters. Young people are dying of kidney problems. We cannot continue to let Galamsey go on.
What is the most important how he deals with this one.
The existential threat to Ghana now, 2025, is Galamsey. It's polluting our waters. We've lost about 50% of the production in cocoa because people are cutting their cocoa farms to do Galamsey. When we lose cocoa as an export crop, because soon the Americans are going to say that the arsenic residue and the mercury residue, heavy metal residue in our beans are such that they won't buy it. We would have lost one export. We have three exports: gold, cocoa, oil. We would have lost cocoa. Okay? So it's an existential threat. If you don't have water, you can't drink water. Maybe people in government can afford Evian water to drink. What about to wash? What about to bath? If you travel across Ghana now, it's disgraceful. All our waters are like chocolate drink, brown, dying. A lot of them are dead. There's no fish going through our waters. It's an existential threat, and the president should focus on it and resolve it. And this loss is a strong reminder that this problem needs to be tackled and resolved. We had suggested that there should be a complete freeze, a 3-month, 6-month freeze on all non-industrial gold mining, so that a presidential commission is set up to look into it, and once they come out, they'll have social response. How do we solve the social problems from this? How do we solve the medical problems? How do we solve the agricultural problems? So it is critical, and this accident has forced all of us to refocus on it.
And this suggestion of 3 months, you want it implemented immediately?
Immediately. It's an existential threat. When we say existential threat, it means if you don't solve it, the people of Ghana are dead.
Ahead of this accident, there had been a lot of calls for the country to declare a state of emergency on this area. And we've had a few government officials saying, even including ministers, saying that they don't think that we need to declare a state of emergency. Would you say that the deaths of these individuals, in addition to what you're suggesting, should get the government rethinking that position of not declaring a state of emergency?
Look, if you set up a presidential commission and all our traditional rulers, our religious leaders, the social activists, all say that this problem needs to be resolved, and resolved immediately. I think that if it is stated that Galamsey illegal mining is an offense, people will stop. If the big traditional rulers were to say that there should be no illegal gold mining on my soil, it will stop. You know, we cannot play with it that, it's bringing us reserves. That's not it. When you face an existential problem, a threat to your life, you try to resolve it, you know. And it's not a problem that this government caused. It's been there for the past 8, 10 years, 12 years. So all of us as Ghanaians, it's not political. All of us as Ghanaians have to decide this problem needs to be resolved, and then we resolve it.
And again, there are those who, I know the president is mourning just like Ghanaians are.
Yeah.
There are those who believe that the president perhaps has been very lenient towards dealing with this illegal mining menace, especially when he was very upset about the destruction of our water bodies ahead of the elections. Would you agree with those who think that he's been very lenient, perhaps why we are where we are?
No, look, the president has arrived barely, 8 months. Who am I to say, to judge him? My party, Akufo-Addo's government, was in power for 8 years. What did we do about it? So it's not a time for stating blames, you know, allocating blames. It's a time of facing our responsibilities seriously as Ghanaians. Okay. The president has the historic opportunity to set this country right. He is the only person who can say it. I say it and people misinterpret me. He has been a district assemblyman. He's been an MP, he's been a deputy minister, he's been a minister, he's been a vice president, he's been a president, and he's come back as a president. He knows all the tricks of Ghanaians. He knows all the problems. He is the only person who doesn't need me or the voters for an election. He doesn't need his political party. He's not going to run again. He has only one term. He is the only Ghanaian out of the 35 million of us who can set the agenda so that the country takes another path. A path that will give hope and trust to the young people who are coming. A path that will make people loyal. A path that will stop people going into politics because they just want to get rich. He is the only person. Nobody else who comes in has just 4 years, can run again, and therefore you need your political party. You need the voters. He doesn't need the voters again. He doesn't need a political party. He is the only one who has this unique historical opportunity to set the agenda for Ghana.
We heard the president say recently that perhaps he didn't see the extent to which illegal mining was a problem. He, having come back to power, he realized how massive it was and the need for all of us to come together to deal with the matter. The state officials were going for the launch of the Responsible Cooperative Mining and Skills Development Program. The other question that comes up even in the midst of this is, do we have to, and that's coming from critics, that the country spends or wastes a lot of resources organizing, such launches with such pageantry when we could easily deal with a problem like the example you gave for us to just declare 3 months of no mining for specific purposes?
For a presidential commission to look into it. No, look, it's communication, it's messaging. These launches are interesting because when they take place, you, the journalists, are there. You then put your searchlight on it. That is how we get informed. So that's not an issue. The issue is that we should focus on it, as not the president will say. If people are saying, oh, illegal mining creates jobs for people, it's destroying the environment. So we should not encourage it. Prostitution employs people, but it's an offense. We don't encourage it. It's an offense. You do it, you are arrested. I'm sure if we're looking for just foreign exchange and gold, we could send 1 million of young Ghanaian boys and girls outside to do prostitution, and we'll get more billions than we'll get from gold. And the gold will be exhausted. And it's destroying Kuku. It's destroying the lives of people in the rural areas. Water is critical. After all, the world is drying, getting dry. A time will come when more powerful countries will come and take over Ghana to take the water and push us aside. So water is something that an individual needs. Without water, you die.
The other part of the question is the president himself having admitted that it is, quote unquote, not using his own words, easier said than done when it comes to dealing with this illegal mining issue. What would a failure to deal with it within the almost 4 years he has mean? Not just for him as a person and the NDC, but also for Ghanaians.
It will be a disaster. And the president was very bold when he launched the National Economic Dialogue. He said, give me bold suggestions, initiatives to resolve the big problem that we have. Typically Ghanaians, we all sort of criticized ourselves and we did not sound as bold as possible. I think we always pray for the president to have the personal courage to meet his historical challenges. we are not, it's still young in the days, you know. He still has a honeymoon, 8 months into the administration. Problem that we, the NPP, accumulated for him are significant. And therefore, all of us should support him. When you say Galamsey, the president is not in the areas where the young people are digging. The traditional rulers are there. The pastors are there. The citizens are there. They should be able to say, no, don't destroy our waters. Don't destroy the youth. Because the polluted waters, once you get ingested, they are causing kidney failure among young people.
What do you mean by the problems we NPP accumulated for him are enormous?
8 years of economic mismanagement. That's the problem that the president has to deal with. The city, we created a myth that a fixed or stable city is a success for good macroeconomic management. That's not correct. You know, it's relative. Economics is all relative at the margins. When your city, when you have domestic inflation of about 10%, your city needs to depreciate by about 12% or 2 percentage points. So that the people who are doing exports have a cushion. You see, a lot of things are happening in Ghana. Young enterprising women are doing soaps and oils with shea butter. They are doing chocolate, exporting them. A few weeks ago, when you exported $100, they got 1,500.
Even 600.
They have 1,500 Ghana cedis. Now they are struggling to get 1,100. That's $400, 400 Ghana cedis lost on $100. The Ghanaians who sustain themselves on remittances from their children and relatives abroad, when they got 1,000, say $100, they were getting 1,500 Ghana cedis. Now they are getting less than 400. So
for you, the stability of the city is not enough?
It's not a matter of a stable currency. It's a matter of relative stability. Relative between your inflation and so so they've inherited this bogus economic theory from us in the NPP that they have to move away from. What we need, instead of spending, we spend about over $1 billion trying to cushion up the city artificially. They've spent probably $2 billion trying to cushion the city artificially. What we should do, and we all know it, is to use these reserves to change the structure of the economy. $1 billion spent on rice production would have made sure that we are no longer importing rice. A couple of billions spent on an integrated poultry project would mean that we are no longer importing poultry. We can produce it here in Ghana. And that would be making jobs available for Ghanaians and not needing to spend so much. The city, when the city is depreciating, it's like having a temperature when you are not well. Just you know that something is not well. What is not well? The structure of our economy. Ghanaians import more than we export. So what do? We have to start to change the structure so we import less and also export more.
Having made that point, would you agree with the decision or what the pronouncement of the president earlier? Actually, if you're looking at the real value of the city, it's around 12 cedis per dollar. Do you think that perhaps that's what we need, looking at both the positive and the negative sides of the city, really appreciating that much against the US dollar or major foreign currencies?
No, the managers of the economy have to realize, what I'm saying is that we should not make a fixed city a fifth cedi to the dollar, the ultimate economic goal is the flexibility, the relationship. Interest rates are coming down, things are coming down. I mean, the young people in Ghana have not seen inflation at 3%. I've seen it, inflation at 3%. Interest rate at 5-7%, not interest rate over 30%. Nobody can do any business with interest rates at 30%. So things are going in the right direction, but the policy direction guidance should also be clear. That is not a fixed currency that we are looking for. For example, where are we going to get the cedis to pay the cocoa farmers? If the cedi is about 10, 11. You know, when I first started as a young economist in the Ministry of Finance, we had a fixed exchange rate, and the cedi had appreciated to such an extent that diamonds, we couldn't export diamonds. So one of the policies we had was that when everybody brings in $1, it was about 1 cedi, 10 pesos. For the diamond industry, we pay them 2 cedis for every dollar of exchange rate that they brought. So we subsidized the export sector so that we didn't kill our exporting sectors. So now our exporting sector is suffering. But a time will come when we will have maybe between 10 to 12 or 13 as the range within which the cedi will be going.
So,
and then we focus on restructuring the economy so that the balance between our demand for exports and what our demand for imports and what we export will come to relative balance.
You just talked about what you did when the cedi was 1 cedi and some 10 pesos.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of policy direction in the meantime, or in the temporarily you expect the government to bring on, even as it considers the long-term restructuring of our economy?
No, I've just given an example that in order not to kill your exports, sometimes you have to subsidize it. That the current rate where the cedi has dropped very sharply has not been good for exporters. It's not been good for people who are normally transferred for 5 billion Ghana cedi to support their families. People who are on pension.
When you read the mid-year budget review, what was your first reaction? Or even when you heard the finance minister talk about it, what was your first reaction?
My reaction was to keep quiet and let's see the direction that they are going to go. You know, it's very sad that people like me from the NPP, I'm an elder
yes.
of the party. So a lot of people are going around calling themselves founding members. There are very few founding members. I'm an elder of the party. You know, we were in power for 8 years. We left. I was talking to a lady from my village, and he said, "Oh, your people are saying that President Mahama should come and do the KJTR project for us. You come and finish the market for us." And I'll say it in tree so that you appreciate it. Ubiaba was here. We need the cash required to her. Also, no major man. We not a man in fear and watch it. For 8 years, we're sitting with a problem. And what I pray is that, first of all, we are going to pray for President Mahama to have the personal courage to tackle the problem. They are historic, to reset the economy. And people who have stolen the loot that they want to recover, we encourage them to do that, but to do it under the rule of law. The NPP and the NDC, as the two biggest parties in Ghana, have a moral responsibility to make sure that the democratic dispensation we have continues, so that the young people retain hope and trust in democracy. Democracy is very difficult, but the only thing that we have to make people enterprising, use their initiative, so we should continue with it. We should not create a problem so that there are political disturbances, and then, like is happening in Burkina and the others, there's a military intervention.
Do you have fears that this could be done without the rule of law being respected? This oral and other corruption-related matters?
We can deal with it under the rule of law.
Do you have the fear that it could degenerate beyond the rule of law?
Yeah, if you are sending people like rushing with guns to people's houses at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. to arrest them, that's not the way it's done. The police have to do their work, CID do their investigation, you have the evidence, take them to court and jail them if they need to be jailed. Then we are doing it under the rule of law.
Do I get the impression, forgive me, do I get the impression that you're very unsatisfied with how perhaps Yoko, maybe the Attorney General's office and other security agencies have gone about this recovery or trying to hold people accountable for their actions?
Look, I'm saying that the sub-region we live in has become very, very risky. The jihadists are moving in. Burkina Faso, which is on top of us, is rated the world's most risky terrorist affected country. It's just on top of us. Côte d'Ivoire have problems because the president apparently is trying to go for a 4th term. When the Traore comes here, the young people see the military uniform, they're enthusiastic, they think things should be done with immediate effect. My worry is that we should demonstrate that under the rule of law, we can do all that we need to do. The MPP should not in any way be supporting people who are suspected to have stolen from the country. They should be dealt with under the rule of law. What we should do is also hold the president and the NDC to the strictest rules of rule of law, accountability, and what Kufuor tried to do, zero tolerance for corruption. Just as they are putting us in jail, they should also be watching their side to make sure that we get rid of corruption. Look, Ghana has enough economic resources if we manage our affairs well and kept the resources good for the use of all of us instead of a few people stealing it. Ghana in 10 years will become as good as Singapore, where we have resources that Singapore doesn't have.
So I asked you that question about whether or not you are afraid we're going to go about these things without respecting the rule of law, because you mentioned that 5 a.m. and going into somebody's house with guns, because recently we had a public figure accuse one of the government agencies of doing that.
Yeah, it's not right. The rule of, as I'm saying.
So that's why I asked you whether you are afraid based on that, things were going to degenerate.
I'm worried about maintaining democracy. Both NPP and NDC have a responsibility, to maintain democracy. As I said, I remember Dr. Omane Boama and Ablako Kujeto as young enthusiasts, passionate for the rule of law and democracy when they were students. As I said, we're working with them. So people have fought. The young people your age, you don't understand what military rule means. You don't understand when women, elderly women, are stripped of their clothes in public and with whips whipped on their backside. You don't understand when you are standing on the streets and a pins goer comes and you are frightened. You don't understand what it means when you are called and put in cells for just speaking your opinion. You don't understand how Rekumprobe was being chased around with guns when he was helping liberalize the airwaves, the radio stations, TV stations you have. You don't pay any respect or homage to Rekumprobe and the people who made it possible. Because it's not your fault. You haven't seen it before. Those of us who've seen it before, who pay the price, are saying, let's be cautious and maintain the democratic dispensation that we have. We in Ghana, you can go to church and come back. Your parents can go to church and you are not worried whether they come back or not. In some places, they go to public places, they are blown up because there is war in Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, Libya. Ghana, we are very fortunate. Let's maintain our good fortune and good luck.
I want to take you back to the economy, because when I asked you the question about what came to your mind when you heard the mid-year budget review, you said was to keep quiet. But I wanted to also follow up, actually ask you whether indeed what was presented met the reality on the ground in terms of our current economic situation.
No, I will not answer that. You see, this is the question. Somebody has just arrived. Okay, 8 months. And somebody is asking me, oh, rate them from 1 to 10. I don't have the moral right to judge. All I ask is that we should be careful and make sure that we preserve the good things that we have. You know, if we didn't have this galamsey, there would have been no need for these young, brilliant people to lose their lives in a plane crash. You know, it would have been nice for them to be maybe driving a car, but even that is not necessary for people to be rushing or risking their lives for simple things that can be solved quietly and peacefully.
The claim that public debt fell by 113.7 billion in just 6 months, aside from what we heard the government say that the CD appreciation has helped reduce our debt, would you say that that claim is genuine? In just 6 months, that claim that we have reduced our debt is genuine, aside from the CD dollar issue, which has drastically also helped us towards our debt? Is it a creative thing done by the government?
That what our debt has been reduced?
Yes.
In CD terms?
Yes.
No. We'll talk about the economy in the right forum. You know, I've always been saying that we need professionals to discuss issues. And that the problem with Ghana is that the professionals do not talk, who know. And those who do not know occupy and they suck up the air from the space for these discussions. When the budget is read, the politicians take over. They become MPP versus NDC. And then our professionals at the universities and the financial institutions are quiet because they don't want to be identified as this side or that side.
Either of the two.
So we need to make sure that in Ghana, we move to a stage where after the elections, 2 months after the elections, policy stops. People should go and do their work.
How do you implement that?
How do you do
implement that?
People in the press, you find something else to talk about. There are plenty of issues to talk about apart from politics. And let the politics be done in Parliament between the government and those people. And then the professionals will have the space to discuss the issues without being termed NPP or NDC. A lot of issues we have in Ghana on education, gender issues, creating jobs. These are issues. Religion. You turn on the radio at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. What is happening? Witchcraft. People are talking about witchcraft. Prophesying. or I see good luck for you, but your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, sowing discontent among families. That's not what the radio is supposed to be used for. So it's supposed to be used for education. People are talking about AI. Where are we in Ghana? But a lot of good things are happening in Ghana. You don't see it in the press. A lot of fantastic things are happening in the education system. You don't see it.
Mr. Pianim, I just want us to just finish the bit about the economy, and I want to go to the IMF, because we've had the minority in particular saying that if the government now is saying the IMF is on track, it's because they put the structures in place and they established the foundations properly for the IMF to be, the program to be on course. I know you talked about the kind of difficult economy that the NPP left for this current government, but would you agree with the minority on this stance that whatever it is happening with the IMF program is because we did the right thing?
We did what?
The right thing.
Look, Ghana has been going to the IMF practically almost every 4-6 years since we got political independence. It is graceful. Nkrumah and the founders of this nation got us independence, promising that a black man will be able to govern himself. Show me one African country that is governing itself. Every 4-6 years, we run to the IMF. We went to the IMF. NDC went to the IMF under President Mahama. We don't want to talk about the past. When Nkrumah got political power, we had very few professionals, scientists, technologists, medical doctors. Now in 2025, there is no field of human endeavor, big data, AI, medicine, technology, that Ghanaians are not shining in. So we have the people. All we need is to put these people to work. We have people who can mine and process our lithium for transitional energy, who can mine our gold mines and employ Australians, Chinese, South Africans, Americans, Germans to help them do it. They have the technology.
Well, Mr. Pianim, the argument is that this is capital intensive, and a lot of the time these foreigners bring in the cash.
But we can also use government sovereign debt to raise the money to capitalize these Ghanaians. That's what the others do. They don't have the money. Their governments make sure that they have access to banking. If our insurance and pension funds were strong, by now we'll have some capital to lend to our people. The teachers' fund, which I helped them set up, but for the bad fiscal policies we've had, would have been worth $2 billion by now. Okay? So we have the opportunity, we have the resources. We don't need foreigners to come and do that. But you and I, we are worried when a Ghanaian is becoming a millionaire or a billionaire. And therefore, we put obstacles in their way. The only way to grow this economy is to have Ghanaians know that only we can grow our economy. Nobody else can grow it for us.
Why have we failed to deal with ghost names as a country?
Because you and I don't have the moral strength. When we are working in the Controller Accountant General's room, to say that no ghost names will be put on the register. Who put them there? Ghanaians. Who divert the money? Ghanaians. It's not the president. It's not the ministers. It's the civil servants, the public servants who are doing it. They are Ghanaians. When we talk about corruption, we talk about politicians being corrupt. The public service now, the civil servants, they are more corrupt probably than the politicians. We are the Ghanaians. We put ghost names there. Why is it difficult to remove ghost names? In Ghana in 2025, you have digitalization. You should be able to ask if you didn't disable the audit function at the Control and Accountant General's place. I know a couple of people who within 2 weeks can solve that problem. They don't want to solve.
Because you are benefiting from it.
Because that's where they eat. That's where their shop money is coming from.
But they are paid.
They are what?
They are paid for their services monthly.
Who are paid?
The workers are paid monthly for their services as workers.
Sure. But they still need that. The people who steal most are those who are paid most. No, the problem is we Ghanaians. Once we decide, people were surprised that in Japan, on the motorway, the system failed. So people were driving through without paying. Next week, all of them who drove through that road went individually to pay. Can you imagine that happening in Ghana? When people are responsible citizens, they take the country as theirs and they do what is good for the country.
What structures do we need what structures do we need aside from digitization to deal with this problem?
Honesty. For us to know when you steal. Look, we're going to build 110 hospitals. Nobody asked, where are the nurses, the technologists, the X-ray technicians? Where are we going to have them from? All of a sudden, can you do that? Build 1 or 2. Why is it that these people who are building these hospitals for us, when they are sick, they go outside? We broke down the hospital, Alabadi. People were using it. Up till now, they've not been built. And when we are sick, we take a plane and go outside. Is that morally right? Morally responsible? We should start rethinking. My age, maximum 10 years, 5 years, I'm gone. Your generation have to be sure that you make this country good for you. In my village, they say that when your gums will say will be gone, it's becoming more difficult to get to the US or UK. They won't give you visa. You have to live here. You have to drink the water from here. So let's be careful.
Your final words, sir.
The press, all of you should encourage us to maintain and let democracy work.
The press, all of you should encourage us to maintain and let democracy work. The final words of Mr. Kwame Pianim, the elder, an elder of the opposition NPP and also a renowned economist, sharing his views on varied issues. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Beatrice. Do join us again next time.